All right. So happy to see you, Katie, and look forward to your expertise. All right. So here's some questions that came over. Number one, is Katie involved with Cemboo? I'm not sure why that question's there. She hasn't worked with us for a year and a half. Any idea why they would have asked that question? I know she was on the old paperwork 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Is that just, I don't know why
That's
that,
we would keep track of employee changes. In my previous role, we would
okay.
keep track of employee changes. So I don't think
So what do
or
I
to my
do to say she hasn't been with us since such and such date?
I would just say she's
Um,
no longer yeah, she's no longer with us since such and such date.
yep, perfect. Has the pricing structure for the three tiers models changed or remained the same? Well, it's remained the same, but I also, when I read into this, I also read into a little, and I know I'm micromanaging some of these questions, but when I read into it, there seems like a little bit of uncertainty. Well, have you really done your comparative analysis? Have you done this? Have you done that? So, one of the things that I want to make sure they understand, if you look at the pricing structure, is these first two are always kind of like your loss leaders. The premium is your super loss leader, right? Your professional is where you start making a little bit money. And then of course your enterprise and your custom, this is really based on, the size of client, and that's where you start making your real dollars.
I
So
mean,
as far,
I wouldn't, I don't
it hasn't changed. It's remained the same.
mean the same. I wouldn't even get into that. It's remained the same. What they question did you acknowledge in any of your update reports or whatever that like you had beta users and then they converted? That might be maybe where it's coming from. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I thought we've been pretty transparent. We have how many clients, when are they going to convert? So my idea was, no, they've remained the same, premium, professional, enterprise. Um, I don't know
Answers
if
that
I have to
here.
spell. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I guess they're just asking the pricing structure, has it stayed the same? I mean, yes, I guess the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. What I was thinking about, I could actually answer some of these questions now that the website is fully live. I can say the pricing has remained the same and then put the pricing here so they can interpret it. Oh, he has an enterprise. That means custom pricing is involved. That means there's a lot more going on there.
yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. What are your thoughts?
No, I think that's fine. If they have any further questions, like because down lower, and we can maybe circle back to this question, but down lower there's a question about no, there's not. That was in the review. Never mind. I was looking at the review and it was asking a question about revenue. So never mind. I think they've stayed the same. Yeah, they've stayed the same. And the only other thing to note there would be the converting of the beta customers to paid customers. But it's up
Yeah.
to you if you want to get into that or not.
Um, has Cemboo determined if they could obtain patents for the software or the use of trademark secrets, blah, blah, blah. So during my presentation, I thought I was pretty clear that legal has been a big expense, right? Um, so the bridge amount, user agreement, which is legal. And then, of course, once we get over here, I've spelled out intellectual property filing. We've had
But
initial, we've had
I
initial, I'm sorry.
you finish that.
I was going to just say, I said, we've had initial conversations with legal, but we don't have the budget. We just don't have the budget to explore that other than just the basic initial questions that we've had, because we know that we've gotten, a budget, a range saying, hey, this is going to be 20 to $25,000. We just got basics on what it would cost. We haven't gone down to actually,
Did you do the trailer?
we did the trademark. Yep.
I
We
would I could think because that's I would state that here. We've secured a trademark for Sembu. Our
did
other
that. See,
Our
so that's my problem right here. So when you look at the package, and I'm sorry to cut you off, when you look at this application that we filled out and spent the time doing all this stuff, we clearly state that we've taken care of, trademarks. So we did this logo and the slogan. So this has already been registered. So this is complete. Patents we will seek. So we actually answered all this. That's why I've been confused because we answered all the patents and intellectual property stuff.
just an idea. I mean, I think you could. Can you refer to this in your
Well, that's
response?
what I was thinking about doing. I was going to say this was answered on page 9 of the application.
Yeah.
Because to me, as you go down, so we already answered all this, right? The subscriptions, we say what they are, so I could do the same thing. And then
Or
right
you answer
here,
one sentence like we are seeking if we could obtain patents, but right now the legal budget does not allow for that, and so it is
exactly.
in our you can see page 9 of the application.
Yeah, exactly. Their target market for digital content management has primarily focused on higher education institutions, film festivals, and sports. Which segments do their customers come from? So again, I know in the application and also in the deck, specifically in the deck, you know, we talked about the two main beachheads, as you would call them. Here's the expansion markets. And then once I talked about our current clients, and I think there's a narrative about this as well, that this is not just universities, it's not just film festivals. We have podcast companies, we have some other type of verticals that have already signed up. So this question itself, again, to me seems like, did they review the material? Do I spell it out again?
And they're asking for customers. So from honestly, what I would do there is just say our current customers include sports companies, um, educational institutions, and a lot could fall like Chuck's organization could fall within that. That's broader. Film festivals, even
We have a podcast company, we have a entrepreneur book salesperson, not salesperson, but a speaker series.
yeah, you can keep it broad. Sports organizations, film festivals, educational institutions, other entertainment
Yeah.
organizations.
So I'm going to come back to this question because it's kind of referenced in this summary over here, which I also have. I'm going to make this red because I'm going to point something else out for your clarity. All right, so number 5, um, live stream continues to evolve, which can impact Cemboo both positively and negatively. Are there other market segments Cemboo sees as a potential niche as technology continues to broaden the capabilities in this space? See, this is where I think, and I talked briefly about this with Jack, and you'll see it on this summary in a second. I think there's also a little bit of confusion. Live streaming and VOD distribution, you don't want to, I know it sounds weird, but it's not just a niche. We're not just going to go after educational partners. We're not just going to go after a smaller niche because live streaming and VOD has now become widely adopted by companies. So the pool of potential partnerships has increased X fold. I don't know how much what the fold is. We have to find a statistic, but there's not I don't see a smaller niche for us to go into to find a more strategic niche to go after. I think that each niche we'll have maybe a different marketing strategy. I think we're going to market to festivals or universities differently. I'm going to talk about that in a second as well. But what do you see for five?
I'm trying to figure out where they're coming from. And neither of us know that. Neither of us are mind readers, but as part of the review that they sent over, again, I like that Marissa stated some of this may be applicable, some may not be. Take what you like or whatever. But there was something in there about like focusing on one market. Um,
If we focus on one market, does YouTube focus on one market? Does Vimeo focus on one market? YouTube would be out of business if they only focused on um, left or right influencers.
I don't, I Hayden, I don't know where they're coming from with this question. It seems to me that they had an idea, right?
Mhm.
And then they asked the question to see if you had the same idea of this potential niche. I don't know. I,
Yeah, I'm gonna skip this one for now. What is the market share of Cemboo's competitors? I mean, that seems to be a ballot question. Um, but to be able to define that, you have YouTube doing live streaming, you have Vimeo doing live streaming, you have IBM, you have Instagram. Every tool right now has a live streaming capability. Again, what Cemboo is doing is we're using more of a differentiator strategy. All those other competitors, for the most part, besides Vimeo OTT, as one of our, we believe our direct competitor is where you're installing a media library on a website. I think this is just my gut feeling. My gut feeling is that they don't think we know our competitors because I think they're always, every single time we talk, everyone thinks about YouTube. We would need $10 billion to compete against YouTube. We're not trying to compete against YouTube. And so, how do we answer this question?
so let me back up a second. You are helping people with a digital content library leverage that to their benefit. Con Distribution your way, however they choose to leverage that, if it's awareness or monetization or whatever. Right now, they're either A, not doing it, right? Or B, just putting it out on other platforms.
Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
just giving, they're so used to just giving away their content for free because that's what everyone's been doing and that's what we all continue to do. TikTok, Instagram Live, everyone is doing one form of just giving away their content, most of the people. And one of the weaknesses that we have, and we talked about that, is educating the marketplace that you may have a valuable library. And because of such, you may want to consider um, monetizing it with Cemboo. Because right now, even if you sit down with like Christopher from Alvernia during one of his meetings, oh, we have a YouTube strategy. Okay. Well, I'm not suggesting you don't have a YouTube strategy for whatever publisher you are, but it might be a better for a micro strategy because your long form content has value.
so let's use Alvernia as an example. Right now, they're leveraging YouTube. They might
Yep.
have some videos up on the website, but not a library. So let's Alvernia as an example. Although YouTube may not be a direct competitor, maybe an indirect competitor because that's what people are. There's a lack of a modality, right? There's a lack of a pathway for them to do what you are doing. That doesn't exist. That's why it's
Mhm.
new and it. I don't know how we make that. I think it's important to establish in this question that YouTube is an indirect competitor, and that is what many people are leveraging to display their digital content. However, your real competitor is really not your. This is sitting on a shelf somewhere, sitting in a drive. So I don't know how we. I mean, if we want to do if we want to use YouTube as an indirect competitor and talk about their market share, but there's untapped potential.
Yeah, exactly.
The Google Drives of the world is the
Okay, let's skip this one for now. We'll leave it red temporarily. Number 7, have any new competitors been introduced in the digital content management space? Well, we just recently found that IBM came into the space. And so we did talk about that in our this slide right here. So we talk about our indirect competitors down here.
Mhm.
So we talk about YouTube, Film Festival, Flick, Sidearm Sports, right? That Alvernia uses. And this is the new competitor that just came on this, a new person that came on deck, which has kind of like, again, the OTT comparison. So we've done this chart so we can answer that question. So there's a lot of answers right here, possibly for that question.
Well, then there's your answer to your previous question too. How much market share does Vimeo and IBM have? I mean, if that's people's alternative right now.
Yeah,
But yeah, I seems like a lot of things were in the materials they had.
but that was my point. So I think I can answer that. Now, here's the question that really starts getting weird. In addition to the Ben Franklin request of 100,000, what amount, if any, has been raised of the 500? So this question really frustrates me a little bit because um, we talk about the 195 raised by family and friends to date. Then inside the actual paperwork, 195 is mentioned at least 3 times in the documentation on what we've raised from right here. Family and friends have invested 195 to date. And then it's mentioned another place. So this is where, and again, I'm not trying to be negative, but why am I getting questions where the information is directly mentioned multiple times? That is confusing to me. It's just very confusing when it's right here on page 12 and 2 other places. I forget where it is, but it's a couple other places somewhere else. What am I doing wrong with filling out this paperwork that
Honestly,
clearly,
maybe that's a valid question. You know, coming from a good place and wanting, maybe that's a valid question. To ask Marissa. I want to make sure I'm doing this right. I want to make sure you're getting the information you need. Like, what?
like here it is right here. Look at this. It's mentioned again. Receiving 50 investment from with along with.
Yeah,
So we've mentioned it multiple times. So how do I answer this? I don't want to be sarcastic and say that has been answered on page 7, page 11, page 14, on slide deck 3. This is question number 8.
I would. We've raised 195K to date. Please see this page and this page in.
Slide,
I valid to reference where it is. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I met with our accountant today. Um, he produced a 2-page balance sheet and also a P&L statement. The cash doesn't come in fast enough for there to be an expanded cash flow statement, but we know from the balance sheet what the cash was on hand, how much does Cemboo have on hand. So I was just going to explain that in my narrative in a sentence. I have that amount. What's the burn rate? 12,185. I can answer those 2 questions. In terms of revenue, where does Cemboo need to be in order to hire one more salesperson? So here's another thing that even Jack and I discussed. So one of the things that we did is the Cemboo financials, and I'm not going to download it right here, but we have notes in all of the, we have notes in the spreadsheet on hire this person, hire that person. I think we were pretty thorough on explaining all that. Um, and lastly, you know, when we presented our ask for them, this is what the 80,000 and they ended up turning it into 100. This is what we've asked for over here. They put a major emphasis on marketing, right? And everything of that nature. So this is what we asked for. We never assumed we were adding sales until we start converting to that next convertible note tranche. And we kind of are pretty clear in the narrative of that. You know, after we complete the MVP, we're going to then leverage the MVP and the additional sales that we have to finally go over to the convertible note in this, and then we're going to go after that money to bring sales on.
I think
So how do I answer 11?
in terms of revenue, I would say, I'd explain that, just what you said there. You'd like to bring a salesperson on after the MVP is complete, and we'd like to raise a seed round to help accelerate bringing the salesperson on to help us generate revenue.
Yep.
Because I mean that's your plan right now. I mean,
Yep.
unless from a revenue standpoint, that's something we really didn't discuss, right? Like it wasn't let's generate this much in revenue to hire a salesperson. It was let's get the MVP done, let's raise a seed round so we can start generating revenue or accelerate our revenue generation to sustain the salesperson hire, but to initially get them on board, that was the seed money.
Exactly. Um, so I thought that question was confusing as well. Um, all right. I mean, I can drive them back in the fact that this is what we're using the 100 for as listed in our narrative on page 12 or what?
You have like just some just be I think explaining your plan with the seed money and hiring a salesperson, and I think that's valid. Just a curious question, like as far as like projected customers after the MVP, could you point them there too? Like,
Hmm.
you know, this is our plan right now to use the seed money to get the hire, but ideally, our goal is to have this many customers equating this much revenue by Q2 2025 or whatever that is, just to kind of let them know that you are mindful of revenue generation, but ultimately the funds for the position were coming from a seed round.
Yeah. So here we have our projections of clients.
Mhm.
You know, this is what we're hoping to have at the end of the year. Third quarter really hurt us, but anyway, that's off the record right now. But we still have a good 40 days to get close to some of these numbers. But this is 25 is all about aggregating accounts.
Mhm.
This will be 24 accounts, and hopefully this will be net new. And I'm sure we have churn built in there somewhere. Um, but I can point to that.
Just to acknowledge, obviously, you want revenue generation and that's a priority, but that's not where you're looking to fund the sales position from. That would be my guidance on that one.
Hmm. Sales. All right. So you're suggesting that I try to do it. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, I would explain your strategy of bringing the salesperson on board when the MVP is complete through funds of the seed round. However, you know, a goal of revenue generation is top priority, and thus, we are projecting to have, oh no, You still there?
I'm here. I'm just meditating on what you were saying, and I was looking something up. So, all right, I think I can answer that.
Sorry, I think my Zoom popped down, but it's back. Anyway, yeah, yeah, I think. Do you think that's reasonable
That
or?
seems reasonable. I mean, yeah, I can spell that out. Um, how does AI support the business?
Um,
I think so many people are on this whole AI thing. Um, one of the things that we tried, and I know we've talked about this hundreds of times, we really, if you look at the roadmap, once we get over to 2026, we're really going to have Web 3.0 and blockchain. Um, the other benefit is that we're building a lot of our systems on AWS, which we are going to have machine learning, and we're actually working on some of that machine learning systems as we speak so that we can get better economy of scale. Because right now, and this is another thing that we try to explain to them, all of our cost of goods sold is kind of flat because that means, say, for example, with Mr. Chuck, if there's a piece of content that hasn't been accessed for 30 days, then we can use machine learning or AI and say, you know what, let's automatically move this into a different storage bucket that's cheaper because it's not instant access. It's, you know, glacier or deep storage. So there's a little bit of a latency, but it's not that much. And it costs a lot less. The further a piece of content's not, but right now, all of the content on the Cemboo network is sitting in this kind of like one S3 bucket. We just have to build out the systems. There's a process that we have to do. And, this machine learning system, we just have to build it out, will automatically move content into different buckets. So, in essence, yes, we have an AI strategy, but the way this question is written, I don't want them getting hung up on their definition of what they think AI is versus how we're going to interpret machine learning and what our vision for 2026 and beyond is. I don't want this question hurting us if we don't answer it. I know how we're using AI, but it's not right this immediate. We don't have an immediate need and we're not using it immediately. We do see it happening once we go into the big tranche in the future for higher level web engineering.
I think how you, and I don't know, maybe I'm on a different vibe here, wavelength here, but I understood everything you just shared, and I think that's completely valid. However, you want to package that, maybe you use ChatGPT to help you keep it simple and use AI to write the thing, but
I
like
know, right? Take my words to keep it simple, right?
I think you are using it today, right? Because you're developing the product with that AI cold storage thing in mind. So you are using it today. It's just part of product development and in the roadmap. So I think however you want to word that in a simple form, I think that's valid. Up to you if you want to get into the blockchain thing. I know that's a different, but I think the idea of like keeping content um original and have the integrity of the content, if that makes sense. I understand how blockchain will be important for that, but honestly, it's up to you if you want to get into that or not. That's the one that might take you to left field, you know, get more
Yeah,
questions.
definitely. I like that. All right, so that works perfectly. What is the annual revenue per customer? Now, should we just answer that question simply and say premium average is 900 a year, professional average is 3,000 a year, enterprise is an average of 15 to 24 per year? Boom, done. There's the question.
Yeah.
Does that answer it, or do I have to go in and do some sort of manipulation of data and
No,
incorporate churn and this and this and that?
I think that answers the question and maybe like at a minimum here are averages. We know there are other revenue streams that you could get a small piece of, but I don't think there's enough data, honestly, to accurately that'd be projected. So I think generally saying here are subscription fees. This is how, like, annual basis. And then they're, even if you want to say at a minimum, or
Yeah, I like that. At a minimum 900, at a minimum 3,000, because to your point, we have those other service fees and everything like that.
and
Because
that's
I think this is another thing that we try to get better at. And I know you weren't part of this meeting, but I really put a more emphasis on, this is the main subscription model of where the bulk of the money comes from. But as we go into, as the product becomes mature, the product can be added to AWS. And we hope to do that in 25, which means iOS, Android, app stores, apps are connected to the marketplace. And AWS knows we built the product using some or most of their technology on the back end. It's in their best interest to say to potential clients of theirs, hey, check out this video software, because then they would get the product at a wholesale and then they would help us sell it. So we see the AWS marketplace because there's an application for it. You fill it out. But because they've given us money in the past, $35,000, then we're going to be at the very least fast tracked into their marketplace. So we feel confident that that will be a future revenue stream. And of course, the big ticket item, which is we've kind of spelled this out a little bit. So there's a difference between ad server, which is the value proposition for the publisher, because they keep 100% of the ad revenue. But as Cemboo matures, as we go into 26, the bulk of the money that Google makes, 95% of their money comes from Google Ads. All their first verticals of product are all free ancillary products. Why? To drive these people into using their tools, using their products so the advertisers can advertise. Well, that's what the ad manager is. This is their super, super secret sauce. And now we've mapped it out because there was a lot of confusion when I would just say it and you couldn't visualize it. So the ad manager, so let's say Coca-Cola, Pepsi, um, you know, uh, Gatorade comes to the Cemboo ad manager from an agency perspective or an advertiser perspective, and now they say, hey, there's 23 million viewers on the university sector of Cemboo because they have 100 universities, or there's sports, and now you can then create an ad. That ad still goes through an opt-in process where Alvernian can say, hey, a local Gatorade commercial has been sold and wants to put that content, I mean that advertisement on our page, we can opt in and get 30% of the ad revenue. And that's where um, the Cemboo marketplace. So there's really three big tiers of how Cemboo makes money as we mature. The first 2 years are all about aggregating the partnerships and the subs. So the revenue is low, but once we turn on Cemboo ads, that's where you see that big thing where they can't wrap themselves around it because they don't understand. I try my best to answer these questions in person. We try our best to state it in narrative, but they don't understand the value proposition. I don't think they understand what Cemboo ads is in the future, but I'm comparing them to Google ads.
and even like the little tiny cents, micro cents you get on a credit card swipe or like a
That
subscription,
starts to add up. That
right?
scales.
So I think the at minimum verbiage is fair, and because Sembu Ads is not live yet, there's not enough data, blah blah, blah. I think if there's further questions, you could.
Yeah, so I'll say at a minimum to answer 13.
Yep.
I'll take a stab at answering these over the next day or two, but let's pivot to this real quick. So I don't know who filled out this form, but someone on their team filled out this form. And
We
when you
also use like external people too, honestly.
yeah. So so I would like to okay, so yes. Is there evidence of a complete management team? There appears to be a team in place with experience and knowledge. So that seems good. Market sales strategy approach. The generic marketing tactics described of doing content marketing and demos and then closing deals is fine. The broader marketing strategy is a problem. There are multiple markets, education, films, festivals, sports. For an emerging business, it is essential to pick one market and prove success and leverage the growth. The company seems to have a lack of focus. So This is where I still think there is a major disconnect. We can't pick one category because if we do, we're not a live streaming or a VOD company. The product is a wider product, right? So this question, so watch this. So here's another thing that doesn't make sense. So this right here seems like a big negative that we have to overcome. But if you look at what was submitted to their team, I specifically break down. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not opening right now. So I'm going to download it. So when you go all the way down to breaking down the budget, right? Um, all right, so here's marketing. Digital marketing, Google Ads, social media advertising, Facebook, content marketing, webinar, live events, email marketing, automation. This is through our Salesforce development, $20,000 we earmarked. We lay out a decent plan. Here, it sounds like there's no plan based on how they worded that.
Mhm.
So this is where there's a lot of confusion, and then the company has a lack of focus. This is incorrect. We are a live streaming VOD distribution company. There is, if we just focus on a sports market, we're done because every one of our competitors are focusing on the broader market. Live streaming is a broader product. If we just focused on education, we'd be out of business. It's
I I want to agree with you, but can I maybe
no,
off?
please. I don't mind if I'm just I don't want to sound like I'm pushing back too hard, but
No, I agree. Big play, big turn, big vision. You're absolutely right. Um, and I don't think we should be single-minded. That will kill us, right? I agree with you. When and maybe this could be something, I don't know, an interesting thing for me to look up walking away from this. YouTube, when it started, was started by employees of PayPal. So they probably already had a nice chunk of change in their pocket from their PayPal um, exit. They also got 3.5 million invested from Sequoia Capital. I don't know about Vimeo or Vimeo OTT, but some of your competitors, IBM, they are heavily funded. So I think the thing to take away from this is maybe how do we really take the resources that we have and produce results in the most efficient and effective way. You know, there are different sales processes and different, look at universities just in general, that is a whole different beast from film festivals or other things. So I 100% agree with you. We can't be single-minded. We have to have a bigger vision. All I can say, I mean, the way this was worded was really short and kind of inconsiderate. So I really, I don't think that this was a full, this wasn't explained in depth. It was just kind of a quick, the company's has a lack of focus is a little harsh in that regard. I don't believe that, but that will be my only thing to take and chew on and,
yeah, I hear you. So, but this kind of statement means someone's going to vote on not giving us the money. That's so harsh that if I was a person who voting on giving us the money, I'd be like, whoa, this company, why would we invest any money in this company? The second issue that I have with this statement is education, what we've learned has a very long tail. And quite frankly, I think we've strung along with Alvernia for multiple years and we had handshakes and eye contact. I think we learned a lot from that. But what we did know is that there's bureaucracy in educational universities, and you have a committee of 19 people that have to make a simple, basic decision. So I don't think there's going to be a big focus on education. I think education has to happen either organically or just because of our partnerships now, hopefully with Drexel and hopefully something we do with the sales. I think some of those natural organic relationships will open up the educational bucket. I don't think we put most of our focus there. Well, that's for sure. But if you look at the other mix of our company, we've now started getting people reaching out. And I got another text message just the other day where it's starting to breed. Hey, we got someone else that wants to meet with you. So
Educational organizations don't just need to be universities or schools.
exactly, they could be, like you said, Chuck and everything like that. So I do have a problem with the way they answered this question. Number two, I did make a mistake. Now that I see this, the company claims in quarter two, we gained 4,000 paying customers totaling 3,000 in annual subscriptions. Not clear economics here. What is the annual revenue per customer? What is the revenue model? So here's the problem with this question. The sales projections are not supported and not believable. Another horrible situation. So let me show you where this got sideways. During my presentation, of course, I thought I did a great job and I answered all the questions. Okay, 3K was our first professional plan. I made it clear that 4,000 paying customers came from 4,000 paying customers from the publisher side, that are using Cemboo's paywall. Okay, All Abilities Live themselves have 3,500 customers that have paid subscriptions, which generated 11 grand, which is over 12 or 13 now. So this was worded incorrectly somewhere, and maybe I didn't explain it. I tried my best to explain this. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So when you go towards the bottom of the document, it was correct. It was worded correctly. Um, right here. So the company introduced SaaS professional yearly plan, attracting 4,000 paying customers and receiving 50,000, da, 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 with All Abilities Live event generating 11,000 in cumulative revenue. We could have probably polished this a little bit better.
I think it's a simple like these customers are
These
driven
are
by,
these are our publishers' customers,
right, right,
not
right.
our customers. But again, when you go to All Abilities Live, this is another thing that I'm not even going to try to explain it, but I'll explain it to you. If a customer's coming here, right? So that means if a customer comes to All Abilities Live and they want to watch content, well, they're creating an account on Cemboo. Well, there's a broken logo there. So that means they're getting attracted, those 3,500 customers or 4,000 customers, they're natively getting, connected to the Cemboo brand. There's other exponential things that are happening behind the scenes. It hasn't kicked in yet, but the more paying customers for our publishers, the more that this name is being seen. And it's no different than when YouTube first came out, when they started doing viral marketing or viral cats mowing the lawn. It takes time, but then that engine explodes.
Yeah.
So I can answer that. Well, first of all, it's not a question. They're making the statement. Um, and the sales projections are not supported. So
Do you think that this comment was a motivator for the question about the revenue model? And is it still the same?
possibly, I mean, first of all, they can't submit this. They have to be, I have to restate this because they have the stuff mixed up. And maybe I did not a good job explaining it, either both in person or the paragraph. I think that definitely needs to be fixed
I don't,
because if, as you go down, are the proposed resources, people, equipment, supplies appropriate, or should they seek outside contractors? Really can't tell from the material. It seems that there's talented team of professionals on the board. That's just a weak answer, but anyway.
And
Uh,
I don't know the answer to this question, but I'm not even sure the people you pitched to filled this out.
that's
I
my point. That what I said to you earlier. Are they piecemealing this out to people looking at, like, read page 13, you look at this, you look at this. Um, with the successful completion of the proposed product, do you see development of a business advantage for the company on how significant it be, please? Identification of a target market and go-to-market strategy is a major obstacle. I'm sure items identified are being developed, like the user agreement, advertising details, etc., are needed and can be created to be important business assets. But the core business model and focus are the big challenge. Without that being improved, these ancillary items will not matter. Another, I don't even know if it's worth submitting any of this stuff. Um, has the company, I don't like this, better than others. We're not better. Better, even Steve Jobs said, don't try to be better, try to be different. We're trying to be different because better, you need limitless funds to be better. We're doing something different. Sports, film festivals, higher ed are all very different markets. What I think they're missing is that we're now in a marketplace, we're in a world that companies, many companies need live streaming. Many companies need VOD. Um, I know there seems to be some value in that statement, but we've not done a good job in something because they just want us to focus on one market, and that's it. And we can, but we wanted to have grown the 12 companies. We'd have two companies. We'd probably have maybe four festivals without doing our own festival as a true use case because no one in the festival space, we even met, and for the record, I'm not going to talk too negatively, we met with certain people at the Reading Film Festival. They don't get it. So we needed to have at least a use case so that we can now go out and sell it because you can't visually understand Cemboo unless you see it in action. Are the strong competitive technologies, if you see, again, look at this. So here's the question.
Yeah, I know.
We're not these, none of these people are our competitors. And even this Vimeo, regular Vimeo, Twitch, Amazon, and YouTube, they're all destination websites. They're missing the fact that we are giving publishers the ability to launch their own YouTube, their own Amazon, their own Twitch, their own Vimeo.
Okay, I think we've established from the questions and this document that there's a disconnect, right? And this has been a theme and something to think about. After you have the questions answered for Ben Franklin, before you submit them,
We have to get on a call with Maria. I mean, not Maria,
Marissa, either a call
Marissa.
or an in-person, I think, coming from a good place and saying, I really want to make sure that everyone understands who we are and what we do. Otherwise, it's just going to be frustrating for both of us. And she can be a true advocate for you if she understands. She can be a true advocate because you're not going to get everyone that you pitch to back in the room to kind of dig into the weeds and make sure that they understand. But
I mean, every single one of these answers, this is, I mean, do you agree that this is so wrong right here? Or am I just reading this incorrect?
I mean, and did they see the deck? My question is, did they see the deck? Because there were competitors specifically outlined in the deck, and these competitors are not.
Not clear how these projections are achieved. Well, we talk about 24 and 25 talking about aggregating content and why 26 is an explosive year. Um,
I mean, if this individual, in my opinion, gave really short responses, I don't think this was a very thorough due diligence or whatever review. Um, and I think you have to kind of hear the pitch or ask you the questions. You know,
all I know is
this is I
we
don't
have
even know if it's turned into the board. Like I really don't know what happens with this document, but I would
well, right
encourage
now,
you to.
to me, this document is a C minus at best. This document has a lot of holes and a lot of misunderstanding, either through my pitches that I've done, through my scrubs, my pitches, my in-person pitch, my in-person Q&A. I mean, everyone said I killed it again in the room. We submitted what I believe. It's a very hard story for some reason to tell, but every single time I look at, even when we were on the scrub, my last scrub, that's the main reason why I finally put this slide, because it was like a year in or into some of the stuff. I put this slide in here. We had to put this slide in for the big pitch, because the questions I was asked. I said, guys, I really want to apologize once again. There's a disconnect. Cemboo is not a destination website. And I'm going to put a red slide in there and really understand. A destination website is Target, Walmart, Amazon, Netflix. Those are destination websites. Cemboo is not that. Cemboo is where you install the software and the publisher leverages that software how they see fit. That's the true differentiator. And we're not competing with those platforms that they just put there, because we're not in that same space. We're not, if we were creating a destination website, then that point that she read, that red point would have, or whoever wrote that would have some validity. But this thing is marred with so much disconnect that if it'd be different if it was just like one thing that was off, but it's like if you look at the narrative of that information, it just seems like it's 80% disconnect.
Also ask her like the folks that heard the pitch, did they do this review?
Yeah,
Because we have a real problem. But I do think it was someone completely separate that like a mentor or somebody that they have that's probably never seen your deck. I don't even know if they looked at the deck. I don't know.
yeah.
But I agree there's disconnect here. Are there some valid points? Sure. There's always something to learn and improve upon, sure. But there's a lot more disconnect than not, I think.
And you know what I'm fearful of? We're gonna answer all these questions. We're gonna submit everything. And this document, if it's not updated, they're gonna come back and say, well, we can't give you the 100, we'll give you 50 or 40 again. So we're back in that same
I
rabbit hole.
think I really think that's why you have to sit down with Marissa and say this review I do not feel like is a true reflection of what we're doing. Like I really want to meet with you and work together to get, put my best foot forward, but this is not reflective of who we are. And I,
Yeah,
I really need to sit down with you and make sure you understand who we are and what we do.
yeah. And try to get an in-person meeting maybe Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, at least they give you low risk on the team, the management team, and
yeah. Marketing is a 4, which is the highest risk. I mean, we spelled out a marketing plan. I don't know if they saw it. They're really obsessed with AI for some reason.
and with the marketing thing, I don't think it's the plan. If you have limited marketing dollars, maybe it's valid to say we're going to attack this market first. That doesn't mean we can't have a meeting with an educational company or a film fest or sports company or whatever to close the sale, like, or if those organically come up. I just think there's a little bit of validity in saying, hey, we have $100,000 for marketing or $50,000 for marketing. How do we use that most effectively to convert customers? But I don't think that means you have to pick one and only sell to one and only
Yeah.
focus.
I mean, even this question right here. So they mentioned the word, and so I recall from a previous company information. So whoever read this and whoever's writing this definitely knows something about Cemboo from the past. So you're mentioning differentiation here, but up here you're referencing YouTube. This is obviously they got themselves they got themselves in a circle with this better.
In my in my past life, how due diligence was done is that there was initial analysis and then there were questions and then the reviewer met with the entrepreneur to get more information and they provided a comprehensive due diligence report to the investment committee. That doesn't mean there might not still be some lingering questions, but at least there was some interaction prior to kind of these like short, quick. I mean, our due diligence reports were thick, like not short, quick, no
Yeah.
focus, and stuff like that. So
So again, your recommendation, reach out to Marissa, try to get a in-person meeting. Even if I answer the questions, you know, this narrative is just not reflective of who we are and what our technology is and what our company even does. They've completely missed understanding the product, in my opinion. And to your point, I think there are a few things that are fair questions, and I'm all for being pushed and ready to answer tough questions. But when you read this report the way it is, you can see how many misinterpretations there are.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's also fair to say who looks at this report. Does this go to the board when you vote on it? Is this report only seen by your internal team who was at the pitch? Like, I think that's a fair question too. Like, where else does this report go?
Yeah. Is this just the report that they have to have as a documented report where they saw risk, but they still had the money earmarked and they were going to give it to us anyway?
I don't know. I don't know if that document is shared with the board, who ultimately votes on who gets money and how much. I think that the team that you pitch to, I think they present the pending investments opportunities. But I think it's a fair question to say, is that in some packet that they get to? Like, does the board see this packet? Because that's my real concern. It's just there's just a disconnect of understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Some valid things, of
Yeah.
course, the disconnect.
So, I mean, does Marissa still have an office in Alvernia, or she still has like boots on the ground time?
Yeah, she has an office in the basement of College Town. I don't know when she normally goes there.
Yeah, yeah.
Ask her.
Well, I'm gonna reach out to her. I'm gonna schedule a meeting. I'm gonna schedule an email with her now. Um, when I first saw the questions, they weren't that bad. But then when I read this, I was like, whoa, what in the world is going on?
Yeah, the questions I ask really aren't bad. Again, it's okay to ask a question for more understanding. That's better to do if you have disconnect than kind of make a harsh thing if there's some disconnect. But I think more the review was more of the concern.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to do my best to work on this over the next 3 days. I'll send her out the email, see if I can get her to meet with us. At the very least, if they don't update this report, then I'm going to at least make it clear in my response. Hey, read your combined review form. I think there's a disconnect, and these are the areas that are a disconnect.
One thing to leave us with in the questions that we looked at first, there was nothing about marketing plan or what market you're going to attack. And those questions are from the people at the pitch, is my understanding at least. So that's a good, other than the target market, number four. I think they just want to know what market you're primarily focused on, although we're not going to ignore the other markets. So at least I think from the pitch, there was some understanding. At least I feel better that you conveyed your marketing plan to them better than what the reviewer.
Yeah. The,
Sense.
yeah. I'll meditate on it a little bit longer and definitely, you know, turn this document into I'll respond to everything the best I can based on these notes, and then hopefully maybe you can still look at it before the Marissa meeting. If she says Monday, obviously it's due on Wednesday, so I'm gonna work on this over the weekend and so forth. But it just proves that that original SWOT analysis and the weakness is educating the market, and you know, this is only going to fuel me more to prove these people wrong, these specific people in general, that whoever wrote that report, because someone does not have the info or the understanding. So, and that's the other downside, because I know we always have to be, oh, you only have 10 minutes to tell the story. You only have 5 minutes to tell the story. You can tell it in 20 minutes. It doesn't matter how long I tell the story because they still don't get it. I could have 1 minute or an hour and no one understands what Cemboo is.
So I think meeting with Marissa will be helpful. And I'd go into it with like, here are the 5 points or the 6 points of true disconnect. I just want to make sure you at least understand, so that way you can explain to your team, or just there's some disconnect. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm gonna be working hard this weekend.
Okay, let me know how I can help and good luck.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
See you soon.
See you later. Thanks for the red phone. All right, bye.